Well, let's move into the message this morning. We're moving into back into our Christmas tradition series, a series where we're intentionally trying to, number one, enjoy this Christmas season together, right? Right? We're a church family, aren't we? We're not just a group of people who come together once a week and then branch off into our own lives throughout the week. No, we're a church family. And I think we're one of the churches in the valley that really nail that. We do things together all the time. And with that, I don't want us to all go out and have our own Christmas celebrations. Yeah, I don't want to put up with your family just like you don't want to put up with your family, right? I understand that. So on Christmas Day, we'll all go our separate routes, but we want to hear those stories. We want to laugh with each other. We want to experience joy with each other, with one another through this whole season. So let's experience this Christmas season together. But then, secondly, to connect the things we celebrate and participate in every year to the person and the power of Jesus. Wouldn't it be cool if, the Christmas lights, the Christmas trees, the Christmas movies, the Christmas carols, instead of just being the things we return to every year, wouldn't it be cool if they actually pointed us to Jesus? And we were able to reflect on Jesus day in and day out during this season. So that's our twofold goal of this series. And so far in this series, we've talked about Christmas movies. You remember that? We talked about how through Jesus, we have an opportunity to become the Griswold family. No, not really. Thank the Lord. I just love that movie so much. Actually, that Christmas movies, they bring back a nostalgia that originated in the garden for us, right? A longing for a paradise once lost, that nostalgia that we experience in all of these Christmas movies we watch. In these movies, we see a family. And then we connect that to the story of Jesus. And after this trans-covenantal period of 400 years of silence, the first thing we're introduced to in the New Testament is a family. Maybe a Christmas movie family, right? A pregnant teenager that's not married, no parents are in the picture. It's chaos, it's crazy, but little do we know that family is going to produce a hope that points to the birth of Jesus breaking the 400 years of silence. And then a redemption that points to the power of Jesus fulfilling the promise, bringing the garden reality back to a modern day reality. Christmas movies. Then last week, Pastor Dan led us in talking about Christmas trees, that God's love for his children never withers, wanes, hibernates, or dies. It's actually evergreen, right? You remember the richness of that message? Today, we get to talk about arguably the most emotional Christmas tradition. Can you guess what it is? Christmas carols. Ooh, people are mad already. I can feel it. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, bless you. I'm thankful for you. Like nothing else, carols might be the biggest love it or hate it response right off the bat within all of these Christmas traditions. Just picture it with me, okay? It's November 20th. Thanksgiving hasn't even rolled around yet, right? You're walking around Target. My wife's bought in already. Target, yeah. You're walking around Target. You're round the corner. You're looking for some final preps for Thanksgiving dinner, and you're around the corner, and there's a giant Christmas tree for sale, right? You immediately have a reaction to that, don't you? Maybe not. Maybe it's just me. You immediately have a reaction. Christmas things should not be up before Thanksgiving, right? Or you're super excited because all things winter is just Christmas all the time, right? So anyway, you have your reaction to the Christmas trees up in the store, and you're walking around, you kind of hear a Christmas song come over the loudspeaker, you have another reaction. All things are said and done at Target. It's at least $100 later, right? You cannot go to Target without spending $100. It's $100 per bag, I think is how it works. You get in your truck, you start it up, it turns on to your favorite radio station, and all of a sudden a Christmas carol is on the radio, and you have another gut reaction to that. You either love it or hate it. It's one or the other. There's no middle ground. And not only are Christmas carols one of the most emotional Christmas traditions, but they're also one of the most nostalgic. Just think about it for a moment. The whole world does not worship Jesus, right? Right? We complain over and over again, maybe not me, because we're more of a for church than an against church, but we complain, or we hear it complained about more and more and more, that our society is turning more and more and more secular, right? In other words, that our society is walking further and further away from the things that Jesus has actually called us to. But what's weird about that is almost every radio station during Christmas season will be playing Christmas carols or Christmas hymns or something related on the radio, right? It's like the Twilight Zone. You can't escape it, right? Who listens to K-Love? Raise your hand. It's just like their awful giving pledge. You can't escape it. When they turn that thing on and they're asking for money, just stop, right? We become really secular during that season. Like, we only listen to the worst music to kind of stick it to K-Love during that. See what you're making us do, right? It's not even fair. It may be either a love it or hate it relationship, but there's no way around the reality that come the December season, come the winter season, the majority of the world is singing about the one night that changed everything. Whether they believe it or not, whether it's a Santa Claus story or not, they're singing about the one night that changed everything. Writers like Charles Dickens, Charles Wesley, Joseph Moore, John Francis Wade wrote some of the most famous carols because they noticed this very thing, that the whole world is singing. And so what they decided to do was take some of these songs that were sung in pubs, sung in bars, that were traditional rhythms, traditional songs that the community knew, and they decided to stick rich and deep theology attached to the rhythms that everybody knew, and thus our hymns are born, and thus our Christmas carols are born. And well, let's just say it again, that introduced some reactions, but primarily by the church. Here's a couple reactions. How dare they sing such holy words to a rhythm that's sung in bars, right? Maybe this one, we're supposed to separate from the world, not adapt to it, not become more like it, not put our theology to their thoughts or their songs. These songs aren't even 100% theologically correct. They're teaching bad theology by trying to connect with those outside the church. Believe it or not, I kind of sort of heard that one this week. No matter where you stand on these songs and what your reaction is to the idea of going door to door and singing carols to your neighbor, I hate that idea, by the way. Please, 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 don't show up at my house and sing Christmas carols. We'll watch you from the warmth of our bay window and make fun of you the whole time. No matter your reaction to that, these carols and their original intention was to bring on 3 specific reactions in our heart, and that's what I want to talk about this morning. The 3 heartfelt reactions of Christmas carols. Number 1, hope. Hope. As we talked about a couple weeks ago, the biblical season we're celebrating now came at the end, the tail end of what? 400 years of? 400 years of silence. And so there was nothing but helplessness. There was nothing but pain. There was nothing but darkness, nothing but sorrow. It's coming at the tail end of this 400 years of silence from God, which came after almost 4,000 years of humanity choosing self over partnership with God. Can you even begin to sense the darkness and the depravity and the hopelessness and the helplessness that was going on at that time? It was dark. It was helpless. It was unavoidable death. All hope was gone. And then, unknown to everyone, something profound starts to happen. The silence is interrupted. A breath of hope is introduced to one young lady in a small town, right? And most of us know that story. Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1, verses 30 to 33. And the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God, and behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give to him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever. And of his kingdom there will be no end." There will be no end. The hope doesn't stay with her only for long. This big grand announcement of Jesus coming on the scene is really secretive at first. Only a few people know, but somewhat quickly it begins to spread. And we see Luke chapter 2, verses 8 through 14, where they say this: "And in the same region there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, And the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were filled with great fear. And the angel said, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped in swaddling cloths and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased." In other words, hark the herald angels sing, right? Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn king. That is what's happening here in this moment. It's a moment filled with hope. When Charles Wesley wrote that famous carol, he was attempting to capture the most powerful, the most beautiful, the most intimate picture of hope that the world had ever and has ever seen. He writes, "Hark the herald angels sing," or in other words, behold. Listen up. There's a multitude of heavenly hosts here. Behold, listen to what us, the divine beings, are about to say. Because we're celebrating, we're singing, we're praising. Something new, something big, something powerful is happening. And the song continues, "Glory to the newborn King, peace on earth and mercy mild. God and sinners are reconciled." You remember a couple weeks ago, we've talked about this chasm between humanity and God, right? This chasm that wasn't always there. We were created to have partnership and divine intimacy with our God. That's what the garden was all about. Walking day in, walking day out with our Creator. But then Adam and Eve were the first in a thousands of years pattern of choosing self over partnership with God. And now this song is singing about the new hope of the garden reality becoming the modern day reality, that God and sinners, God, better way to say it, and humanity, not just focusing on our sin, but humanity will be reconciled. In other words, God has taken his love to a whole new level, a level that will bring peace to the 4,000 years of chaos and will bring back the paradise that was once lost. Church family, hope was born. Hope was born, real hope, true hope, eternal hope, hope that began on that first Christmas day and continues just like that powerful song does when it says, "Mild he lays his glory by, born that man no more shall die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give us that second birth." You see, Jesus brought hope with him when he was born into the world. But the hope didn't stop, right? The mission of Jesus was one that started there and continues for the rest of eternity because he brought the second birth. To have hope is to desire for an outcome that makes life better or makes something worth living. And isn't that the result of the hope that Jesus brought, church family? A better life, a life worth living. Let me just say, we have a great reason to be filled with hope as his sons and as his daughters. Another reaction to the carols naturally point us to is secondly, joy. Joy. Now, if you hate everything about carols, this may be really contradicting, right? I hate carols. How am I supposed to experience joy in them? But when we go all the way back to the motive, these songs were written to give us a hope that naturally brings us joy. If we're filled with an eternal flame of hope, if the world can't bring us down, if we're not worried about racial tensions, about pandemic tensions, about political tensions, because we know how Jesus sees us and we know his mission will not end, if we're not worried about those things and we're filled with hope, how can we not be filled with joy? Amen? Consider this passage for a moment. Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, it says this, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice." Let me just practically ask you, do you rejoice in the Lord always? Somebody said yes. No, you don't. You're lying at church. Do you rejoice in the Lord always? It's easy for me to rejoice in the Lord when I'm sitting at church and Doug Graham and Eric Mayer pull me up front and I find out I'm getting a truck. Yeah, heck yeah, I can rejoice in that moment. But what about when you're, a couple weeks past that, and you're sitting at home and you're just figuring out, maybe not for the first time, that you and your spouse just cannot get on the same page. You just cannot connect with each other. You just keep hitting a wall over and over and over again. Are you rejoicing in the Lord always? How about you lose your job and Christmas is right around the corner? It's pretty easy to rejoice pretty hard. Wow. It's pretty hard to rejoice in the Lord always in that season. How about your transmission blows up in your truck? It's pretty hard to rejoice in the Lord always in that season. That's not me. My truck is great. Thank you guys so much. I don't know how you feel about it, but I certainly think and feel that life can be pretty hard at times, right? Have you guys experienced that? Life can be difficult. Life can be challenging. Life can be full of pain and sorrow. But you see, Christmas carols remind us that God, who he is and what he's done in our relationship with him, that God intends to be our greatest joy forever. That everything in this world, the happiness or maybe the slight joy it brings is fleeting. It's not eternal. It's not going to last forever. Things change. Even Jeep Gladiators will rust at some point. And it's heartbreaking. Things change, but our God is constant and steady. We'll never rust. The joy we can get from him will last forever. It's passages like Psalm 147, verse 1. It says, "Praise the Lord, for it is good to sing praises to our God." Or Philippians 4:4, we just read it. "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I will say rejoice. But then Philippians 4, verse 7, "And if we do that, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard our hearts and will guard our minds." James chapter 1, verse 2, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds." You see, God isn't just giving us this plain Jane version of joy that we don't really know how to define. God actually gives us a multifaceted joy. One that doesn't get affected by the happenings around us, but one that is steady, one that is constant, one that is firm. It is an anchor in our soul, just as he is himself. You see, this multifaceted joy shows us that, one, God designed us to sing praise to him out of our joy in him. God designed us to sing praises to him out of our joy in him. Secondly, our joy in God is not optional. We are called, we are challenged to always find joy in who he is. Third, our joy in God is never natural. It passes all understanding. It makes people question, why are you okay even though all these things are happening, right? Because we have a joy that's bigger than the happenings around us. Fourth, joy in God is always possible. No matter what's happening in your life or around your life, joy in our God is always possible. And then adding to that, the words by John Francis Wade in his famous carol, "Come All Ye Faithful," those words remind us that, fifth, our joy in God is best experienced together. Our joy in God is best experienced together. You see the words, "O come, O come, O come, O come all ye faithful." Do you see how that's a gathering, a togethering? "O come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant." Come. Let us adore him, for Christ is Lord. Isn't that the motive, the mission of what we're doing right here, right now? Oh, come all ye faithful, and let's celebrate the birth of Jesus so that it can give us hope, so that it can bring us joy, so that it can encourage us, because everything going on in the world is death and is discouraging and is challenging, and we need to be reminded. You see, these words are like the dinner bell at the farm, calling the whole family together in unity and joy over the wonderful news of our Savior's birth. And beautifully, just as our hope continues, so should our joy. The fact that our God stepped down into vulnerability. We've talked about this, right? It doesn't just start at Jesus' death. Something powerful happens at his birth, and even in his incubation period, if you will, in the womb. The Jesus fetus, I had to say it, I'm sorry. totally lost now. The fact that God stepped down into vulnerability for the sake of the world, or for the sake of dying on a cross so that we could live with him forever, church family, that is not a momentary joy. That's an eternal joy that should last our entire lives. Let me tell you, if you don't get excited about the gospel message because you've heard it 100 times or because you've been in church your entire life, you maybe need to pray again for salvation. I'm not saying you can lose your salvation. Don't hear me say that. But we need to be excited about that gospel message. You hear me? We need to be excited over and over and over again. We need to be thankful over and over and over again. The gospel message of Jesus dying on the cross for our sake, becoming our propitiation or our replacement so that we can have unity and that we can be reconciled with the Father again. Man, that should make our heart leap every single time we hear it. Should bring constant and stabilizing joy into our lives. So there's one more reaction that Christmas carols hope to pull from us, and that's thirdly, anticipation. Anticipation. How many of you, just to ask really practically, and I want you to be honest, I don't want you to hyper-spiritualize this question, okay? How many of you have ever went a day without hearing something from God? Come on, raise your hand. Let me see it. Don't be like, I look at the mountains and I see God there, and so I know. Don't go there with me, okay? Because you're way holier than me if that's the case, all right? So Dan, stay out of this. How many of you, let me see it again, have ever went a day without hearing from God? I have, yeah. How about a week? Yeah? How about a month? Maybe a year or more? Have you ever had a tough year where it just feels like you're in a dry period from God? You're not hearing from him. You don't have connection or relationship with him. Yeah, we know biblically that's not maybe the truest thing in the world, but that is the felt reality, right? It was a very true thing for about 400 years in this world where God had removed himself from creation. There were 4,000 years of humanity choosing self over partnership with God, and I don't know how it all happened, and I don't believe God just said, I've had enough, and he stepped away. That's not who our God is, right? But there was 400 years of silence from God. Not just hyper-spiritualized silence, but real silence. No interaction between humanity and God. Now, it doesn't take long for us to feel like we've been in 400 years of silence with God, right? I mean, our day, our month, our week, our year, those all too quickly, if we have a close relationship with our Father, those all too quickly feel like huge, giant, long, dry periods that distract us from everything else in the world. That's the felt 400 years. It was hopeless. It was helpless. There was no hope of ever seeing the light again. I don't know if you've ever been in that period where you just feel hopeless. You just feel helpless. You feel that your prayer will never be answered, that there's never a hope of seeing light again in your life. But then what happened at that 400 years? To quote Joseph Moore, all is calm. All is bright. Round yon virgin, mother and child, right? What happened at the tail end of that 400 years? Or maybe more powerfully, the words of Adolf Adam, long lay the world in sin and error pining. 4,000 plus years, that's a long lay the world in sin and error pining, right? Till he appeared, and the soul felt what? And our souls felt their worth. And then it continues. A thrill of hope. I like, instead of thrill, I like to put, I know they don't mean the same thing, but I like to put a shriek of hope. A scream of hope. The whole world, we see these hosts of angelic beings singing and praising. You talk about a thrill of hope or a shriek of hope. The divine beings are excited about what is happening. A thrill of hope. The weary soul rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. And the 400 years of silence are done. For yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Let me emphasize it. When no one thought anything was happening. When no one thought anything was happening, it was just another day in the 400 years of never hearing anything from God. When no one thought anything was happening, the one night that changed everything was in the works. When no one thought God was moving, God was speaking, God saw their lives, part of the divine Trinity was inside a womb as a fetus, getting ready to be launched out, gross word, getting ready, to be launched out into creation in a way that it's never happened before. I'm sorry. Do you feel the power in that moment? Do you feel the authority in that moment? When no one thought anything was happening, Jesus was at work in a way that we could have never anticipated or expected. You see, when all hope was lost and the world was experiencing utter darkness, eternal light was born, which sparked everlasting hope. It broke the pattern of hopelessness and helplessness and darkness. And this leads me to one Carol conclusion. We have no excuse to be filled with anything other than hope, joy, and anticipation of what God is going to do next. We have no excuse, no matter what life brings our way, to be filled with anything other than hope, joy, and anticipation of what God is going to do next. Let me just bring this to a really practical point here for a moment. It is crazy for me to step up here. I'm not like just ragging on myself. It's literally crazy because I've been told that. It is crazy for me to stand up here and 3 weeks ago say, hey, in 3 weeks we need $33,000. That is not the best business tactic in the world, right? You can laugh at me for that. It's crazy. It's easy to be filled with doubt. It's easy to be filled with wonder, like maybe it won't happen. And even in staff meetings, we're having conversations around if it doesn't happen, we'll stay excited and we'll keep pressing. And those are all great conversations to have. But it's really easy to stop anticipating what God is going to do because the ask got big. But then what happened, church family? $43,530 happened, right? $43,530 appeared in our giving box, and all of a sudden we right away began expecting God or anticipating what in the world is God going to do next, right? When things like that happen in our church family, how can we not anticipate what is going to happen next? Put yourself back in that moment of hopelessness, helplessness, darkness that you found yourself in life at one point. Think about the miracle that you were begging God for. Think about the life change, the transition moment. I don't know what it was that you were asking God for, but think about the miracle that happened and then ask yourself, how can I not anticipate what God is going to do next in my life? We've all had those moments where we've clearly seen God work, where we've clearly seen God move in profound ways, shift ourselves back to that perspective and begin asking ourselves, what is God going to do next? You see, I can't say it enough. When all hope was lost, when the trajectory of darkness and hopelessness was set, when the light and beautiful garden design seemed broken or shattered because Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden, this was the felt reality all while the divine was in the womb preparing to bring heaven to earth, right? It's the famous words of that song, which I really, really like. Whether you do or don't, I really like. God didn't want heaven without us. So he brought heaven to earth. And the divine stepped into creation in a way it never had before, preparing to set a new trajectory, preparing to breathe hope and life back into creation, and willing to experience something he had never experienced before so that we, his creation, humanity, could experience something we had never experienced before. Jesus experienced pain, torment, death, so that we could experience intimacy with him and life to the fullest. Church family, practically speaking, with what Jesus has already done for us, how can we do anything but anticipate what he's going to do next? You see, this question was the very mindset of Isaac Watts when he wrote the words, "Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her king. Let every heart prepare him room." You know, strangely, we sing this song around Christmas time, but it's not actually a Christmas carol. It's a song written out of the hope for the second coming of our King Jesus. The day when we'll get to step into eternity, when the story will be set and done this side of eternity, and God's kingdom, or the kingdom of Jesus, will come to earth and it will reign for eternity. What a hope and what an anticipation, right, church family? You see, it's a song that rejoices about what Christ has already done and looks forward in anticipation to what's coming next. And as we've said over and over and over again in our last series, every moment has sacred potential, right? Every moment has sacred potential. Let's choose to believe it. Let's choose to live that way and live with a wonder, live with an awe, live with an anticipation of what God is going to do next. Winding down into our Matsu challenge, what can we do with all this? Number one, really practically, live a life reacting with hope, joy, and anticipation. Live a life where you just react with hope, joy, and anticipation. That would be different than the world around us, wouldn't it? I mean, if our community, if our world, if our state needs three things, it's hope, joy, and anticipation. And I'm not saying we're just anticipating what new sector of COVID will come out again, right? I'm saying we anticipate what is God going to do amidst all the darkness that we see going on. What an anticipation that would be. Or if we wake up and we say, God, I am excited for this next day. What are you going to allow me to do to advance your kingdom? That's a hope, that's a joy, and that's an anticipation. Because we have something constant, steady, stable. Nothing else in the world is constant, steady, stable. Everything else in the world is fleeting, but we can experience these things because we serve a king, we serve a Savior who went to a new level. He brought heaven to earth so that we could experience it for ourselves. Live a life reacting with hope, joy, and anticipation. Secondly, this one's really easy. From now until Christmas, read the lyrics of a Christmas carol every night. Super easy. From now until Christmas, read the lyrics of a famous Christmas carol every night. Not just for the carol's sake, but let the beauty of these songs point you to the power and the person of Jesus. Number one, live a life reacting with hope, joy, and anticipation. Secondly, from now until Christmas, read the lyrics of a carol every night.